WAOH is brought to you in part by Jumpstart Video, online at jumpstartvideo.com.
Hello everyone and welcome to Good Morning Akron. I have something very special for you. We are going to be talking to the prospective school board candidates, and today I get to talk with Myron Lewis. Myron, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing just fine, and we are going to have questions from me but also from the community today.
Okay.
But I just want people to get to know you a little bit first, so just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Resident of Akron. The only time I left here was when I went to college. Akron Public School, graduated from Bookville High School, graduate of Morehouse College, a graduate of the University of the Rockies in Colorado.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, I got my BA, my master's, and all of that type of stuff.
Wonderful. What did you get your degrees in?
I have a BA in insurance. It's kind of like an actuarial science type thing.
Okay.
And I have a master's in psychology with a concentration in criminology and justice studies.
Wow, that's super interesting. And you've been sharing with me some of the ways that you have used that.
Yeah.
But go ahead and share a little bit more about your life and your family.
Wow. I come from a great family. And I just don't mean my mother and father who are great, but I have a great extended family. All my aunts, a lot of my uncles were teachers.
Okay.
I come from a family of teachers. That's why I didn't want to be one.
I come from a family of teachers too, and I feel the same way.
but
I respect them so much.
But it's funny. You know, I like to tell people my mom was that group of first teachers who started Head Start.
Okay.
My mother was a part of that group. She's still living today.
That's wonderful.
91 years old. She calls me every day, and I have to give her an update on how the campaign is going.
Absolutely.
And all of those things. So education was extremely important in my blood. Mm-hmm. But I think what happened, I was going to go into the actuarial side, but when I played football at Morehouse in the summer, I stayed in Atlanta one summer, and the coach got me a job working at King Kennedy Center in Atlanta. And I worked with a group of 5, 6, and 7-year-old boys.
Oh my gosh.
And I worked there and loved it. And loved it. Prior to that, the summer before.
What did you do when you were there?
With the kids?
With the kids, yeah.
Oh, we did everything. I mean, I had to teach them songs. Sometimes we would just go out, and I'd take this whole group of boys, and we would just walk around, lay in the grass. I mean, we went swimming, took them to a lake. And
so it was almost like summer camp.
Yeah, it was actually summer camp. But these
fun.
Children were from some of the most deprived areas in the city of Atlanta. And I mean, I loved it.
And you were able to pour into them.
Yes, and it was difficult at times. You know, it was difficult. But still, when you know why you're there, it gets easy.
Absolutely.
That was over 40 years ago, and I really wish I could see some of them and see what happened to them. But I left after I graduated from school. You leave, you come back home, or you go into your career. And I sit here and talk to you today and can just see some of their faces and can still remember the first time they told me, you're going to be with them over there, and nobody wanted. And they were my boys.
I love that.
They were my boys.
Well, they needed you at that time, and you probably needed them at that time.
I needed them.
Learn from them too.
I needed them, yeah.
So why do you want to do this? Why do you want to be on the Akron Public Schools School Board?
Well, I mean, do you want the sociology professor's answer, or you want the real answer?
I want both, I guess, but I'll go with real. Let's go with the real answer.
Let's go with real first.
Okay.
I love kids.
Okay.
I mean, I love kids. It's not just something I say, and that sounds simple, and a lot of people will say, oh, that's okay. But when you break down love and you really begin to look at what love means, then you will understand that you want someone working with your children that love them. I worked at Summit County Juvenile Court for almost all of my career.
Oh, wow.
And I first went in, I thought it was a job, but then it became a ministry. And I remember the first day I went there, ladies, they said, you know, Myron, if you could just save one kid, then you will have done your job. You know, you hear that.
Yeah, of course, right.
If you just save one.
Uh-huh.
And that just didn't set right with me.
You're like, no, we can do more than that.
I said, think of it. So if I work here 30, 35 years.
And what did you do there?
I was a juvenile probation officer.
Okay.
I started off as an intake community worker. I became a probation officer, and then after becoming a probation officer, I had a bad week one time, and about 5 of my kids came in. They got in trouble, in some serious trouble.
Right.
And I just said, what did you do? What were you doing before this happened? And they all told me that they were using drugs or smoking weed or drinking.
Right, right.
And you know, even though I went to college and played football, a lot of people, when I tell them this, they don't believe me. Never been drunk, never been high. So I didn't have that mindset, and I went to get some information about it. And the lady that was there saying, you know, you should become a drug and alcohol counselor. And it led into that.
Okay.
And so after I finished, I got hired on with Akron Health Department to be a juvenile substance abuse counselor.
Wow.
And I would have worked there all my career with kids, but things happened, administrations changed, and then I started to do children and adults. Now the sociology professor's answer is, you've heard the terms upstream and downstream thinking, upstream and downstream programming. All my career with kids and with the addicts that I work with, I was downstream. Becoming a part of the school board will give me the opportunity to make policies that will catch kids upstream.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Okay? They'll catch them upstream, and because when you're down here,
Right.
you're going to miss some.
Yeah.
You know, but if I can make the right policies to catch the kids upstream,
Before they make it downstream.
before they make it downstream. I had one kid say, he said, what's your goal with me on probation? I said, all I want to do is to make sure I'm successful with you, because if I fail, you're going to jail. So I want to keep you out of jail, and I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And it's the same thing with the school board. I want to take that attitude that I have of doing what it takes.
Yeah.
Now, you know, there's probably people on here that got much better resumes than me, but I can tell you this. I got 30 years. My whole entire career was spent trying to help people improve their lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I had to do it. Oh man, I can only tell you.
Well, and it,
some of the
you know,
things.
it's a little bit about the resume, which it actually sounds like you have, but it's also about passion, and it sounds like you're very passionate about.
On my card it says I've worked with the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
And I have worked with the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm talking about some of those kids that you can think of that have done some heinous things.
Sure.
I've been this close with them. But
As you should be.
But I've also been able to work with YPAW and work with kids, and I directed a number of shows at Firestone High School. A person, if I can say names,
Sure.
his name was Dave Halpern at Juvenile Court.
Okay.
And he saw me, and I was a young guy, and I came in there, and he said, Myron, I'm going to tell you this is the only advice I'm going to give you. Don't disconnect yourself from positive children. He said, because if you're coming here every day and working with kids and that have gotten themselves on the wrong side of the law, not going to school, you can tend to get cynical.
Right, absolutely.
But if you keep connected with those positive kids, then you can balance, and that's what I would do. I would be in court, then I would have to go with YPAW. I've worked with them a number of times. My good friend, Mr. Mark A. Zimmerman, asked me to direct a show at Firestone High School, and I can even give you my spiel. I would tell the kids, look, I may never get to Broadway, so this is my Broadway right here.
So we're going to do the
so
very
we're going to
best
act like
job.
we're on Broadway.
Yes.
And I mean, man, oh my gosh, when you work with, it's something. I mean,
Yeah, that's amazing.
it can almost get emotional.
It really
when you
can.
talk
I've
about-
done a lot of theater too, and my daughter is
yeah.
involved in theater. I talked to you about
Right.
that earlier. And but the teachers and the people that work with them are just so incredible. I mean, She's at Miller South, an APS school, and they did Seussical last year, and I was
wonderful.
just in shock at how amazing these 4th through 8th graders were and how beautiful his performance was.
Right.
All right, Myron, we're going to go to some audience questions.
Okay, great.
And we'll do kind of, if you can give kind of like a short answer for each, we'll try to hit a bunch of them, okay?
All right, that'll be great.
All right, what do you think is working well in education right now?
Do you mean in Akron Public Schools
Yeah,
or just education
let's keep
period?
it with Akron Public Schools. What do you think is working well?
I think one of the good things about Akron Public Schools that's working well is there's a lot of programming that happens in Akron Public Schools. Akron Public Schools understands this thing great. There's that one, we can't do it all. And they are willing to go out and find professionals that they can bring into the school system that can help kids who may have certain needs.
Yeah, I really appreciate that
and
about
those
them.
things. And they do that well, and they've been doing that well for a long time. I think even though we do have some safety issues and we have to get in front of those and make some changes to those. If you look at Akron Public Schools and you look at the schools like places like Chicago, Detroit, and all of those places, and inner city schools that have extreme violence problems,
right,
and have had extreme violence problems for years. Akron Public Schools does not have that worry, but we have to be proactive.
Absolutely.
To make sure that it does not get to that point.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I know even my daughter's school, they didn't have too many problems, but this year they put in a metal detector and they put
Imagine that.
Yeah. And
imagine what that says to you as a child, that I have to walk through a metal detector before I go into my class to sit down and learn. And I think, I hate to say this, but for a middle school, a little bit of that childhood dies when you got to do something like that. And we just got to get back to that. And this world we live in.
It is. And I mean, I guess on my end as a parent, I would rather have her safe, and know that those kids are going in there safe for sure. So what do you think are the conditions necessary for learning? Like an optimal condition for learning?
Optimal condition? You have to have the belief of a teacher who believes that you can be greater than they can be.
I like that.
Because if, and this comes from a Japanese, I take Aikido.
Okay.
I haven't done it in a long time because I had to have a hip replacement. But the Aikido master says, if I don't believe that the student can be as great or greater than me,
Absolutely.
I can't teach him. Because what happens, you begin to make things, you'll say things like, well, I'm not going to show them this calculus problem because they probably can't do it. But when that teacher believes that you can be greater than them,
Yeah.
imagine how the expectation rises. And
Yeah, I
that
love
has
that.
to be conducive for
That's
that.
great. What should education look like in the future? In 10 years, what should it look like?
In 10 years, education should look like a independent study program, which means when you begin to have expectations, high expectations on your children, children begin to come to you with possibilities. But we have to make sure that all the basic skills are taken care of.
Right.
I believe that in 10 years, education, we should be able to say with education that when this child hits the first grade, they can already read. Now, that's going to take a lot of people doing a lot of things, a lot of people cooperating with each other. In 10 years, I want to have a industry where kids are leaving high school ready to go into highly technical fields. I mean, encouraging kids from all sides of town, the underprivileged. 10 years, I don't know if you remember when Jim Trussell said, when he got hired at Ohio State, he said, I want to make Ohio State the place to play football again. In 10 years, I want to make or help make Akron Public Schools the place to go to school again. You know, right now we think of a lot of things, but I believe this, that Akron Public, because at one time we were like that.
Well, and coming in as a school board candidate, we want people who believe that. We want people who believe they can help.
And this is the thing,
so
people that know me will say, well, he ain't just talking because he's a school board. Like I tell people, I got 30 years of receipts believing in kids that nobody believed in. Believing in kids who were great and tell them, look, man, you're good, but you need to get up here to be great.
Absolutely.
I got 30 years.
And that's what they need. They need people like that in their life to mentor them and help them to find their greatness. What's your most current grassroots involvement with APS, outside of if you have anyone right now in APS, but outside
grassroots,
of that?
I've worked with APS. I've worked with agencies that work with APS that kids are at risk. I'm doing some work with urban ounce of prevention, just doing some drama things there for them currently. So that's pretty much currently. A lot of that has been kind of put on the back burner because of the campaign. And a lot of things that I did do, I wasn't able to do because of mobility issues with things. I hope to get the opportunity to be a guest director again. But currently, right now, I support my sister who's a teacher, my niece. I do those things. But only program that I could say right now is the program for that I'm helping with urban ounce of prevention. But that's kind of on hold until November. When all of this is over.
Definitely understand. Where do you see inequity within APS, and how can you as a school board member address it?
I think the one thing that we have to do in Akron Public Schools is we have to begin to see all schools as equal. If you look at some schools, if you look at how some schools are built, the programming and the thought, the mindset that we have with some schools, that we kind of think that, hey, this school is for this, but this school is for that. At this school, you can expect this to happen, and at this school, you can expect that to happen. And I think that we have to begin to work with those more marginalized schools, where we know that kids are coming into those schools and they have more challenges because of poverty.
And bring them the same opportunities as some of the other kids.
Just like the NFL.
The
NFL doesn't give the first round draft pick to the best team. They give the first round draft pick to the worst team. Now, a lot of times it's happened to our hometown team a lot. But you have to, because this is what we have to understand. And I remember Oliver O'Kasich. A lot of people won't even remember that name. But he came in and they had just given the Buchtel Cluster money for the Buchtel Magnet School program. And I remember talking to him. And I said, hey, thank you. Is Buchtel going to be able to get this again? And he looked at me and he said, young man, I want to be able to give this kind of money to every school in the city of Akron, not just Buchtel. We have to have candidates that are going to be candidates
for
all schools.
I agree.
Not just me. Like I love Buchtel. I'm 1040.
You're a grad. We get it.
But I understand that in order to make Akron Public Schools great, all schools have to be great. Because what's the saying? You're only as good as your weakest link. APS, I don't want no weak links in the chain. So if I need a little bit over here, a little bit more here than I have over here, then that's what we have to do. And we have to be equitable like that.
I totally agree. Thank you. Thank you so much, Myron, for chatting with me today. Glad we got to ask some questions from the community as well. We're going to wrap it up with just some words of wisdom to the APS students. We're going to wrap it up with that.
APS students, you are the one who is your job to make sure you do the best in school that you possibly can. You know, everybody in the city has a responsibility, but you have more of a responsibility than anyone. Because if you don't think that your education is important, there isn't anything that anyone can do. We can put you in the best school, we can give you the best resources. But if you don't see the value in yourself first, and then if you don't see the value in getting a great education, then who's going to be to blame? Because in the end, it's going to be on you. You're going to be the one that's going to have to either take all the credit or take all the blame. So do the best you can do in the schools. If you see me out, holler at me, say, hey, Mr. Lewis, how are you doing? And please, please, do the best you can do in school. And if I could say one thing, if you're a student and you're frustrated, we have to begin to get you, before you act out, before you disengage, ask for help. We have professionals that want to help you, and in that way, we're going to be a great school system. We're going to be #1, and everybody will say, hey, I want to go to Akron Public Schools.
Myron, how can people contact you if they want to ask you any other questions?
If you want to ask me any questions, you can go to my email at directdrama@yahoo.com. I got a card here that's got my...
Oh, that's okay. We'll put it all up on the bottom of the screen. But what's your website?
It's just Direct Drama. I don't have a website.
Okay.
You know,
or you gave me a phone number. We'll put that phone number up too.
Yeah, your phone number. You can reach me at my phone number. You'll see me out in the community. I'm around.
Perfect.
And I'm accessible. If you email me, I'll do my best to get back to you. And that's the way.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Really appreciate you for being here today.
Okay. And no magic tricks or nothing like that?
No magic tricks, nothing.
All right.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. I can't wait to talk to the rest of our prospective school board candidates coming up.
And they're all great people.
Yes.